finding that audience, which I started to get better at, understanding what exactly you're trying to do and what problem you're trying to solve, how you're trying to solve it. And then just figuring out what you need to get things done and actually doing it and executing on it. So it comes down to like time management, productivity, and finding the right people as well if you need that.
Hey Rockstars, it's Kristina Romero here, and I had the pleasure of sitting down with Sid Bharath, the head of growth at Thinkific and a content marketing specialist. The interview you're going to see is packed full of gold, not just about online course creation, but about content marketing as a whole, the trends of what's happening right now, and how you can grow your audience and your list so that you can get your course seen by the most people. Enjoy. So for those who don't know or aren't familiar with Thinkific, can you give us the rundown on the benefits of a platform like Thinkific for online course creation and how it stands out among the pack?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me, Kristina. I'm so excited to be here and to chat with the RockStar community. So Thinkific is an all-in-one platform to create and sell your online courses. So, the benefits of having a platform, not just Thinkific, but other platforms like it, is that you as a course creator don't have to worry about the technical details of setting up a website, the checkout process, student management, the payments and emailing and all of that stuff. It could be a technical nightmare, especially if you're not very technology savvy. And even if you are, it's still going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of time and money to maintain and do upgrades and secure everything. So what Thinkific does is it provides all the tools for you to do that without having to worry about it, so that you can focus on creating content. So, for example, you're sitting in front. You have Zoom that takes care of all the webinar. You have your mic. You have everything. All you have to do is just sit down, show up, and speak. And then everything is recorded automatically. So Zoom does that for webinars. Thinkific does it all. You can put it up online, and then it sends it out to the world. You can promote it to the world, and it would automatically, collect the students' email, ID, payments, all of that stuff, and set it up for you. So.
Yeah, and I think that's the greatest challenge we've seen, because we at Rockstar Empires really help coach people through coming up with the idea for the course, producing it, recording it, all of that, kind of helping them through a lot of the strategy of it all. And people just get stuck with the tech, like they just stop in their tracks because they feel so overwhelmed by the tech. And I played a lot with a Thinkific program, and it's very easy to upload. I even what I really like too is is uploading the videos directly to Thinkific. I really love that, and the way the video player looks and all that. So you don't have to worry about hosting the videos on another solution, which I found really convenient.
Yeah, it's just unlimited hosting. So you can upload whatever digital content, not just videos, but PDFs, audio, songs, music, assignments, downloads, quizzes, surveys, all of that stuff.
And, you guys work a lot with course creators. What would you say is the number one challenge that you've seen from course creators when it comes to actually launching an online course?
What I often see for new course creators, people are just starting out and this is their first course. I see them trying to get everything perfect, trying to have everything in a row. And it takes them months and sometimes even years. I've seen people who said they've written and saying, I've been working on this course for 2 years, right? And all this time while they're working on it behind the scenes, they haven't told anyone about it, right? So no one knows it's coming. And then when they launch it after 2 years of hard work, it's crickets, right? So the biggest mistake and the biggest problem, I think, is people trying to make everything perfect right up front when what you should be doing is just to maybe pre-launch, maybe just start putting out some content, start engaging people. Don't worry about making mistakes, put something together, even if it's small, mini course. And then build from there, then iterate. Use the software, in the startup world, you have the MVP process where you build a minimum viable product and then you collect feedback and you iterate. That's what you should be doing with online courses.
It's so true. We call it imperfect action. We're take imperfect action, just
Exactly.
Take action. So when it comes to people who've actually then done it, let's say they've uploaded it, they put their course on, then what becomes their greatest challenge at that point?
Then it could be a couple of things. Now, for some people who, or other people Lewis Howes or Johnny Dumas who use our platform, they already have an audience before they put up their online course. So it's easier for them to distribute that online course because they have their audience. But if you don't have an audience, then your big challenge is marketing it, right? Building up that audience, pushing it out. So which is why we also say, pre-launch that course, try to build up that audience before you actually launch the course. And then when you launch it, you have an audience to launch it to. But even after that, you still need to keep marketing that course. You need to keep promoting it out, do some launches, or have an evergreen style course that continuously brings in new traffic and sales.
Yes, it's so true. And what I really like about the Thinkific platform is that you guys have that sales landing page right there that you can just jump on it right away.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I think people don't realize when they step into this that they're becoming not just like an online course creator, but like a default online marketer. By default, they're like, and nobody knows about my course. So like, let's step into content marketing a little bit and the latest trends, because you can look back like 3-4 years and you can say, wow, Facebook ads, what a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
No one's doing Facebook ads, and you get like traction, and now it's like you can't like barely get heard. So give us some feedback on what you've seen as like the latest trends, kind of like what's working now in terms of online marketing specific to content marketing, and what you've seen like really moving the needle and pushing pushing content out and getting heard amongst like this crowd of voices.
Yeah. Specific to content marketing, I think that it should come with a caveat that it's not like an immediate result. Like, you don't just put out one piece of content and suddenly you're going to get like sales. It is a process. You have to be consistent. That's one big thing. And you have to have good quality. Like every piece of content you put out has, whether it's a video or a blog post or YouTube or a Facebook Live or Zoom or whatever it is, or a podcast, whatever you're putting out has to be really good, and you have to be consistent with it. And then over time, that audience will build up. And what I'm seeing a trend these days is people are creating these Facebook groups to maintain that community. So, where previously it would just be a blog, and then you'd ask people to sign up for an email list, and then you can communicate with them via email. You can still do that, but you also want to build that community on Facebook, because people are on Facebook all day long, every day. And you can easily create discussions with them, and then and really grow your own personal brand, become someone that they trust as a source of information and authority.
Right. And would you say like the thing that really benefits a community is a niche? Like if you can dial down to a niche, then you're actually like working with something that could be successful, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to be everything for everyone, because then you're nothing for anyone. What you want to do is you have that niche, and even like, when you're digging down to a niche, select a specific audience and identify a certain problem that audience has that you can solve with your content, with your courses, with all your products and services.
Yeah, and it's really neat because we've seen people resist picking a niche because they want to reach everyone, and you end up reaching no one. So what would you say, so you've been in Thinkific for a while, what would you say is like some of the most interesting courses that you have seen as far as the niche goes? Like anything stand out that's just kind of been kind of taking you back, like, wow, I never would have thought of that niche?
Yeah, there's been some really interesting ones. There's one guy who teaches people how to fly drones, like take photos and videos with drones. And drones didn't even exist like 5 years ago. Now this guy has built an entire business, and it's not just like a small course and a few people take it. He's making millions of dollars with this business, and he's going even further than that. So what he does is he sells a course for $1,500, $1,500, and he does like ads, like a very simple funnel, ads to webinar to buy my course, and he gets about a dozen sales per week. So 12 into 1,500, you can do the math. It's what's that?
Yeah,
I can do the math. 12K. Yeah. So he's basically like six or seven figures in a year, and he's also expanding that not just as a course, but now he's creating like a job board where he has a certification process. So you get certified drone flyer, drone pilot. Then you have a job board where you can go and get hired by other people who need drone pilots and drone photographers. So he's expanding that into a bigger business. So you're not limited. Your online course can be your first thing, and then you can expand that into something else.
Well, that's right. And it's that old sort of thing that Seth Godin's been saying for a while, like become a tribe leader, like bring people together, make a community, and then that's a perfect example. Like you're teaching them something, but then you have a marketplace in front of you all of a sudden.
Exactly.
with one another.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the community is then, they take your product and then after that, there's a new problem for them. And then they say, hey, they come back to you and say, hey, listen, I took the product. I'm a great pilot, but I'm having trouble finding someone who can hire me for this. Then that's a new idea for you as a course creator, as the head of your tribe, to be like, all right, I can create something for you that will help you get more jobs, right? So you build that community and they're going to always be a source of new ideas for you.
No, that's really good. And in your example you gave, you're like, oh, the typical launch, do a webinar, feed into a course. I mean, that's definitely what we teach when we talk about the launch strategy, that, you build your list, but then you kind of do launches rather than an evergreen. What have you seen with Thinkific in terms of success? Because we get a lot of people feeling like, oh no, I still need to do evergreen, and some people not wanting to subscribe to the launch strategy with like the sales webinar and all of that. Like, what have you seen in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on the kind of courses you're creating and the niche you're in. Now, for something like drones, it's not a very competitive niche. No one is doing anything about flying drones. So it's easy for this guy to put out an ad and everyone's going to see it. Everyone who's interested in it will sign up because there's nothing else to stand out from. Whereas if you're doing a course on, how to market yourself or how to do content marketing, things like that, or fitness, where it's really, really competitive, then you kind of do need to stand out. You need to have like a very well-defined process for that. So, whatever channel you're using, whether it's content or ads or whatever else, or partnerships, I think it's best to have like a multi-pronged approach. So you try to have multiple channels, not just rely on one in your competitive niche, and then have that funnel built out where you're always nurturing and engaging people, right? Because you're not going to buy instantly in a very competitive niche, right? Or even they're not going to take a short time to decide because there are so many other options. They're going to take a longer time. So then you need to keep nurturing them and providing value so that they become more comfortable with you as the best source.
And I think that's the thing too, is that what I like about a platform for online courses, it does remove so much of the tech hurdle so that you can focus on exactly what you're talking about, the stuff that really matters, which is kind of getting yourself out there and branding yourself and building that audience and building that community, which takes time. I mean, and it takes time to do something like that. What would you say is the strongest sort of, is a blog for content marketing still very strong now? And like producing that consistent blog posts?
I think, again, it depends on the niche. Like the drone guy doesn't do any blogging. His only channel is Facebook ads. That's all he depends on. And he does some YouTube videos as well because that's an easier way for him to showcase flying drones and all of that stuff rather than a blog. There's someone else who teaches hula hooping online. Again, all she does is just create videos on YouTube and then it funnels into her online courses on Thinkific. Right? It's really cool.
I probably need that course. You
should check it out, hooplovers.tv. But again, I personally like the idea of a blog just because that's something that I do. But it fits my work. So I teach on the side, I teach content marketing as well. And so a blog makes sense for me in my niche. But when you're starting out, a blog is tough because you don't have any audience and you create this content and no one sees it. So what I do suggest is start off with like guest posting first, putting blog content on other websites that already have like a big audience, and then building your name from there and then driving traffic back to your site. And then you can start creating blogs posts on your own website.
Yeah. See, and it's true. It's kind of, I think, a challenge for online course creators to figure out where do they start first. Where do they start first? So, creating the course, is that first, or is blogging first, or is, building an email list through webinars first? What would you say is if they had a week to work on it and they had nothing, like where should they start?
I think you should start with building your audience, whether that is through blogging or through emails or webinars or Facebook ads or whatever it is. At the end of the day, you kind of want an audience or community of people there. And then you can take it from there. So at the end of the week, if you have, even 100 people on your email list or in your Facebook group, that's a source of information for you where you can talk to each of them. You can say, hey, look, I'm thinking of creating a course around this topic. What are your biggest pain problems? What are your frustrations? What solutions do you need? And then you can really create a course around that and use those first 100 people as your for lack of a better term, guinea pigs, but your first few customers who go through your course and then become your case studies, which then allows you to expand and show social proof to other people who are coming in later on, saying, hey, look, I've done this. I've taught these people how to get success or solve the problem of frustration with my course. You should take it too.
I think that's great advice. And I mean, you've pointed such a great keyword through all of it, which is you're solving a problem. So if you're not solving a problem with your course, you're going to have a harder time just getting people attracted to it because you need to solve a need for them. So you have a lot to say about content marketing. Who are the gurus that you follow? What are like the books that you've read that have been sort of instrumental in really giving you a foundation for understanding all this stuff? Because we got a lot of newbies that come here and they don't have the money to pay someone to do it, but so they have to invest their time in understanding it themselves. Yeah.
So I got started in content marketing about maybe like 5 years ago. So it was a long time ago. And back then, the people I followed were people like, Neil Patel, Noah Kagan, and those guys. Now, I don't suggest following Neil Patel anymore just because, he's changed direction into, I don't know what he's really doing with his thing. But there are some much better, for 2017, better blogs. Moz is still really good. Moz I follow. Unbounce is great. Chris Metrics, Optimizely. These are some blogs, marketing type blogs that I read. But I also, I get most of my information from, or my learning from inbound.org, which is a community for marketers and inbound marketers. So that's where that community surfaces some of the best content. So I don't really just follow certain people or blogs. I actually go to the community inbound.org and then find the best sources. But there is one called growandconvert.com. And these guys are doing some really cool stuff with blogging. They started a blog about 6 months ago, and then they had like this big challenge to reach 100,000 viewers. And they create these amazing content posts, and they explain the process, and they actually hit that goal. So if there's one particular blog you want, that's them. But inbound.org is a great community and resource for new articles and ideas.
Oh, that's awesome. I love all those resources, and I'll put those in the blog so people can easily link to those.
Yeah.
What I think is so great about having you on this interview is, I mean, you're not just head of growth at Thinkific, like you've actually done this before and taking a business and taking it online.
Yeah.
And in our community, we have a lot of people who just happen to do online course creation as basically as a digital product because all they want to do is just take their business online. Mm-hmm. So the next series of questions is basically about the challenges of being a business owner and the challenges of coming up with an idea and taking it online. Can you give us some background about one of the first businesses that you started and the challenges in that?
Yeah, I've done a fair number of that. So like the first one I did was creating this social app for travelers. So it was kind of like Foursquare, but it was more social. Like clearly I did not have a clue of what I was trying to do, and I didn't have like a niche or an audience that I wanted to target, and I just kind of wanted to be the next, mash up Facebook and Foursquare and create something that was the next unicorn. But the big challenge there, I think, was just, first of all, no focus. Like, did not know what the end result would look like or what it wanted to be, aside from I just want to get rich and make a really cool app and have $1 billion. So, and then a second challenge was also team, right? Like you can't do this on your own, especially for building an app. Now, certain other like online courses, you can start on your own, but then at some point you're going to need to scale up and you're going to need people on your team, right? So it's not just you at RockStar Empires, you have Troy, you have other people who are helping you, right? So, yes. For me, I had a team, but I picked it based on like, just, a bunch of friends hanging out. And so it was more like a frat house than anything else. And then it went nowhere. It just, of course. Yeah. Then I pivoted. So I had a whole bunch of other things, but I can, if you want me to go deeper into some of the other learnings.
That's awesome. Whatever ones stand out as good learning experiences. I'm sure all of them stand out as good learning experiences.
It's been like a series of learning experiences for sure. Because, that at various points, like I tried to start a protein bar store, a poster store. I tried like a website that was like sort of lead generation for tour operators, and so on. So I think really is what it is finding that audience, which I started to get better at. understanding what exactly you're trying to do and what problem you're trying to solve, how you're trying to solve it. And then like, just figuring out what you need to get things done and actually doing it and executing on it. So it comes down to like time management, productivity, and finding the right people as well if you need that.
That's such great advice. And it's true, like if you're entrepreneurial, you kind of do end up starting a lot of different things and finding what works. And it does come down to what you're talking about, especially if you want to be known as somebody, if you want to own a space, it feels like, well, you got to start having a conversation around a community, which is a really good point. And it also, I think, proves to people listening to this too, like you can start things and fail them, or you can start things and then not go anywhere, and you'll end up where you are today. It's all learning experiences.
Yeah. But the cool thing is, like, again, the community aspect. Now, if you have that community, then you can always keep starting new things. And, the next time you start something, you already have that community there for you. Whereas you're not versus starting from scratch each and every time. Right. So like Noah Kagan with AppSumo, started AppSumo, built his community, from his OK.Doc blog. Now he's doing SumoMe. Then he did something else like Giveaway Sumo. Now he's got a book. Now he's got a podcast. And all the time he has his community who's always going to be there the moment he launches a new product or service. So he's not worried about starting from scratch anymore.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And not steering too far away from the community that you're in.
Yeah.
And I think that's where so many people get hung up too when they go to create an online course, of being like, well, I don't really know if I love the fitness space enough to be in it for 3 years or for 5 years. And you just kind of have to jump in both feet first, I guess, into something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And back to Thinkific. I mean, how often do you find people signing up and then just kind of getting stuck and not knowing where to go next? And then and what's your advice for them?
Yeah, it happens so many times. Like, again, these people, they sign up and it's free to sign up for Thinkific. So it's forever free, right? So they take the time with it, and then life gets in the way. They don't, people don't block off time to say, I'm going to work on my online course. I'm going to, whatever it is, one step, I'm just going to do this one thing today. But they don't do that, right? So many people still have jobs and they're looking for an additional source of income with the online course. Many people are coaches or speakers, so they're self-employed, but they have other revenue sources, and they decide that, they should just focus more on what's already coming in versus try to build a stream that could potentially make more in the future, right? So they have a hard time balancing that kind of work as well. So a lot of people, and then, as I said earlier, everyone's just trying to be perfect, right? So they're trying to get everything right first, and they just never launch.
Right, exactly. And a good point to that, you had mentioned briefly earlier, the idea of a mini course. Like, you can have 6 lessons. It doesn't even be that long, and they can be like 10 minutes each. And then, like you see my setup here, you can do it in your office. It doesn't mean that you need to go into a studio and pay to have it produced. Like, you can get a webcam, some nice softbox lights, and just record that, just to like prove to yourself you can get it done, and then that's the first hurdle. To
the hoop lovers person, the hula hooping person, her first course, she was in a park. She used to just, play with a hula hoop. It was a hobby of hers. And people would come up to her in the park and say, we really like how you're, dancing. Can you show me how you do certain moves? And then she realized, okay, people want to learn hula hooping. That's how she got the idea to create the course. But at that point, she didn't have access to a studio or high-end equipment and all of that stuff. She had a phone, which she took out, handed to a friend, asked a friend to shoot videos of her hula hooping, and used those videos as a first version of a course, which she put up online. And then it's a snowball effect after that. You get a few people, they pay you a bit of money, you have a bit more, you go back and optimize that course, or you create another course, and then you get even more people, and then more and more and more. And slowly it builds up, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can prove, like, you get that first sale, or even the first 5 sales. You're like, okay, people actually pay me to do this.
Exactly. Yeah. That's another thing. Like, people, the fear that's keeping, the reason they're trying to be perfect is because there's that fear that, if it's not going to be perfect, no one's going to buy it, and then it's going to be a waste of time, right? But you get that proof of concept. Like, you can even pre-sell your course. You don't have to create a course at all. Put up a landing page, say, hey, this is what my course is going to be about. This is the problem it's going to solve for you. If you're interested, sign up here, or pay $10 just to show that you're, willing to pay money. And when you get a sale, then that's validation. Then you can go and create the course.
Well, this is awesome. I'm so thankful for you coming on today. I mean, this has just been absolute gold, I think, for our audience and for those like passing by our blog, wanting to kind of look into creating a business, taking it online, creating an online course. And you've definitely given some great actionable steps. Thank you so much, Sid, for joining us. And I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Kristina, for having me. It was a great time.